Let's move away from EDSA a bit and focus on energy generation, which is a great challenge because it's what we generate that we can be able to distribute. Now, you've given car powership a one-year contract instead of 3 years, and you earlier on said that's to signify to them that you know, we're planning to move. What's the provision to move if we get to that stage where the contract with car powership expires? What would we then move to?
We move to the following sources, all planned. As I mentioned to you, by Q1, we add 52 megawatts more. So we can fully compensate for what...
Which source?
The source will be 16 megawatts from Blackwell Road. The repairs, we've already ordered the parts and everything. That should be ready in a few months. We get 36 megawatts from Newton, solar with battery storage system. That is on track. It's being built by the Chinese company TBA, funded by the World Bank. So 16 plus 36, I hope my math is correct. It's 52. So we know we can fully compensate already by Q1, months before the contract expires with Car Power. Second, the gas project in Kisi, the Nant gas generation project. They've assured me over and over, we were together now in Angola, we just signed, I'll talk about that also. We signed a new LNG hub contract with the United States. But that plant should begin to supply us 50 to 60 megawatts already December 2026. So in short, we will more than double the supply into Freetown by the end of 2026. So we're very sure of the transition, and there's several other projects in the pipeline. So I am very confident that in 2027, we'll triple the supply into Freetown.
This rainy season, are we getting supply from Bumbuna?
Yes, we are. Bumbuna yesterday gave us about 30 megawatts. It's rising. The water level is rising. This is our best period, actually, with Bumbuna. By August, it should be at full capacity, 50 megawatts. It will be spilling water, meaning will even be kicking out excess water normally till December. So we are hoping that the rain patterns are stable, that we get the full 50 megawatts, so there will be even more power coming into Freetown every week going forward. And normally now, again, it depends on climate change, Bumbuna will stabilize and will continue to generate even up to 35, 40 megawatts up to December. Now our rainy seasons are a little longer, so the water level there stays high till about January. Then it starts to drop rapidly, and the worst period is March, April, May.
So every time it rains and there's flooding, people should count on the electricity that, you know, we generate from Bumbuna as a plus for the heavy rains.
This is the fact of life. When it rains, President knows I make the joke with him. I say, any time they say rain day, I say, I hope say they rain na Bumbuna. Everybody get interest, not so. Here it is flooding and so on. Over there, I'm just saying, keep adding more water to the dam.
Dr. Yumkella, let's talk about SDG 7, clean and affordable energy. I understand that there is a 80 megawatt project ongoing, Newton, Lunge, Kamakwe. Can you speak on that, please?
Yes, but since you mentioned SDG 7, that's my legacy in the UN. I did SDG 7, I did SDG 9. You're talking about our plans now. We're looking at 40 megawatts in Kamakwe. That one, this is the thing about projects. You're hopeful, and then you have all these other implementation problems. I was very hopeful that that project will be ready in December or Q1 next year. But I think now, realistically, I've tried to manage the expectation of President because we had shown him with the partners all the deadlines, and now that's shifted. So that will not be ready, best case scenario, till end of second quarter or end of third quarter 2026. But that's 40 megawatts that will also be pumped into Freetown, dropping some in Kamakwe and Makeni. 80 megawatts was meant for, with Infinity, it's a company that is Egyptian, UAE, with funding from the US, 80 megawatts for Bumbuna, the banks of Bumbuna. That one, I just met the promoters in South Africa at the Africa Energy Forum. They're still struggling to raise the money, because of shifts. This is where geopolitics kicks in. We were fully assured of the funding. And then, of course, the funder now has shifted interest from renewables to gas. But the same entity that was supposed to fund them is likely to fund our LNG hub. We're very proud that Sierra Leone could be an LNG hub. This is $150 million investment, brand new, from the United States government. I signed that MOU in Angola a couple of weeks ago. We will be able to supply Liberia and Guinea. It's a hard competition. They want to do the same, but we are ahead because our plant, our gas plant, will use part of that LNG, but also we can supply the other. So the US is very excited. When we went to Angola, it was one of the 4 mega projects they announced in Angola, now at the US Africa Chamber of Commerce Summit in Angola. So that's coming on. We have 50 megawatts solar with Africa 50. The design is going on now, and the environmental impact assessment that will be based in Kono. Again, part of that will be coming to Freetown. That one, again, financial close, if the environmental impact assessment is okay. If the financing is not a problem, they have money. Yeah, but we've already cleared the land issue. I went with the team there a couple of months ago. That one, the financial close is around first quarter 2026. Construction and operation maybe in 2027. So we have some good projects in the pipeline. The hope here, remember in November I presented to the country the short term, the medium term, and the long term. These ones I have mentioned are more in the medium long term range, because they will not be finished probably till about end 2027, 2028. Yeah, that is important because our hope is by 2028, we want to double the capacity we found here since independence. Total generation capacity in this country was about 270 megawatts. We want to add 250 to 300. By 2028, if the construction is not finished, they'll finish it in 29. So double the capacity, you were asking, generation, that we met since independence. That's big. Second, having a plan up to 2030 that others can finish. So we achieve that desire, that dream, that we can sell power back to Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea. That will always be power hungry. That's another source of foreign exchange for the economy. So it's a clear plan. Yeah? We're clear about our short term, we're clear about the medium, and that's what you need to do, not fire brigade. Phoebe calls me, say, lights no the people no vex, who beg one don't I bring generator quick, we put her, but we'll not fix the transmission. So this new plan that we will launch, backed by the World Bank and others, will have generation, transmission, distribution, investments all along, but for 5 years, going forward. So we leave something with the next administration, which maybe Phoebe will be leading.
All right. Also, Doctor, so last year I was in Kenya, and I was there to report on proceedings from the IRENA conference that was held there. Engineer Edmond Noni was there as well. I visited the Kengen geothermal spa, which is perhaps the biggest in Africa. I learned that Ethiopia as well is fast behind them to build one themselves. Yes. Do you think we have the geophysical properties here to have one of those? I know it's a very ambitious plan.
Yeah. No, we don't. But the event you attended, we call it the APRA Investment Forum. I'll be hosting here now this October. Yeah, Sierra Leone will be hosting that. We created APRA 2 years ago. I was part of the design team for Africa. Kenya, Ethiopia, I think a little bit of Tanzania, they enjoy the Rift Valley. And so they have that geological formation that allows them to have geothermal energy. We don't. Yeah, about 10 years ago, I went there with the Secretary General as well. We don't have that opportunity. Iceland, it's one of the biggest advantages for Iceland. And let me tell you how that connects to industrialization. Iceland took advantage of that cheap geothermal energy to be smelting bauxite. And they have an aluminum industry, even though they have a little bit of bauxite, not much. But they took advantage of cheap energy. That's what Kenya and others want to do. 3,000 or 4,000 megawatts from cheap geothermal, so that they can, in fact, boost their industrialization, but sell energy across the Eastern Africa power pool. Our advantage is water. God gave them geothermal. God gave Guinea and Sierra Leone water. That's why in the pipeline we have several hydro projects. From the top of my head, there are about 4 or 5 hydro projects in Sierra Leone. Okay. And I think, and what we've been trying to do is sell that, market that, and brand it to investors to say, look, you can produce power in Sierra Leone, sell to Guinea. But of course, there is our interest is you sell part of it to us. It's cheaper. Hydro is cheaper. Yeah. That's the cheapest source we have really here.
Okay, all right.
There's a young man, Oswald Dundas, who won the tech summit they put together. He won a significant amount of money, but that's aside. His invention, he is using salt water with whatever scientific method he's putting together to generate electricity. So there's that idea. The thing is just how that idea can be tapped into and scaled up. Have you met this gentleman? Are you aware of his invention and what could become of it?
I'm aware of his invention. I haven't met him yet. So O'Shea, take note if you're listening to the program that I have to meet this young innovator. Innovation is very complicated. Yeah. When you study marketing or sales in the US, I don't know about other business schools. I used to teach sales, agribusiness, food sales in the US. Every year you get thousands of inventions. Yeah. They have to go through a stage where you prototype. In other words, they've shown you that it works. Then you have to improve that and commercialize. It's very difficult to commercialize new technology. In fact, in the US, we had a failure rate in those days when I was still in grad school, 60 to 70% failure rates with inventions. There is what they call the Khyber Pass phenomenon. After you've done all of this, only a few can go through that stage of commercialization. So we'll look at this invention that the young man has done. We have to encourage that innovation. Commercializing it is another challenge. So we have to look at it technically. Is it commercially viable? Is it scalable? Scalable means, okay, he's tested it in the laboratory. In the field, can you get 1 megawatt, 500 kilowatts? We don't know yet. So we'll see.
The only way we know is when, you
try
with him and find
exactly.
out.
And if we have resources to say, fine, for innovations like that, I think that's why they set up DSTI. DSTI was set up to encourage that kind of innovation. So we'll take note, we'll talk to him and see if we can link him up with DSTI, because they were set up specifically to help young people be creative, take their inventions then to market.
Yeah, well, the tech summit was put together by the Ministry of
Communications and Technology.
So
we'll link up with colleague Honorable Minister and see.
Let's also look at intercontinental trade opportunities available through Afreximbank. The Intercontinental Free Trade Area Agreement comes to life with funding. They're pushing to get countries within the continent to trade. One of the strategic areas we can trade that I think many times we don't pay attention to is even energy. Yeah. As bad as energy is in many African countries, there are few African countries who have solved that problem. Energy is not a problem for them. Countries like Egypt, for example. So the question is, what is preventing countries like ours from going to those countries that have been able to solve energy problem to facilitate the Intercontinental Free Trade Area Agreement, which in itself, there is money available at Afreximbank to facilitate?
As part of that Continental Free Trade Area, we're also, African Union has also been promoting the One Africa energy market. So in Africa already we have power pools, West Africa power pool, Southern Africa power pool, Eastern Africa power pool, to encourage us to trade. It is in that context that we have the CLSG line, the Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea line. That became operational 2.5 years ago. What is new? I should have mentioned. I went to Guinea about 4 weeks ago, and for the first time, Guinea supplied electricity to Sierra Leone. So I'm doing exactly what you're suggesting. We now get about 15, 20 megawatts from Guinea, which never happened before. Why were we able to do it? because last year, the final connection through Kamakuye was completed and tested. So when we had the crisis 4 weeks ago, because I'm aware of what you're saying, I rushed to Guinea with fast-track negotiations we had started last year, and we got power supply to us. But our dream is we supply back to them, because Guinea now is selling to Liberia, Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso was there when our team left. Burkina Faso had just arrived. They're selling also to Guinea-Bissau. Yeah, Côte d'Ivoire is selling to sometimes to Ghana, but they sell to Mali regularly, and Burkina Faso. In fact, they account for 30 or 40% of all the power into Burkina Faso and Mali. We have another line called the OMVG from Senegal coming all the way down towards Guinea. So there is a big push for that intercontinental trade. What we have done to tap, we're talking to Afro-Exim, but we've also tapped 2 other continental financial institutions. Africa 50, they will be financing the 50 megawatts in Kono, and Africa Finance Corporation, we just did, Deputy Minister 1 just did another conference call with them. They're providing funding for us to look at connecting the mines. Yeah, they're financing the feasibility studies because our mining sector needs over 500 megawatts over the next 5-6 years. Yeah, we want to see again, we're trying to brand that, market it to big companies to come in, build power plants that will supply the mines. Of course, we have to do the transmission lines. That is also connected to the LNG MOU I just signed in Angola. We need bigger power plants, supply our needs, which we project between 600 megawatts to 1 gigawatt in 10 years is what we need. But we want the extra traded. And that's the branding and the marketing I have done over the last 2 years. I've tried to convince big companies that, look, we have the geographic and strategic location that we're in the middle of this trading line. Build here so you get economies of scale, but you're selling to 50 million, not 8 million. Because sometimes some companies look at you and say, Dr. Yumkella, we understand, but your country is too small. So we've been trying to sell, and it's good, Phoebe, you raised it. That's the future of Africa. That's what the Africa we want to see, that we're trading power, because God gave us different endowments. Côte d'Ivoire has gas, Guinea has water, and Sierra Leone. If we trade power from different sources, the average cost will be lower. Same in East Africa. So for Tanzania, because of their gas, they're planning pipelines to take some of that gas to the rest of East Africa, because they are really rich, and Mozambique. So again, in East Africa, similarly, but Kenya has geothermal. In fact, in my days leading energy for the UN, we had Columbia University do a study for East Africa, showing that just amongst themselves, and they add Congo, they can be fully self-sufficient in power, because God gave them all different endowments of natural energy resources.
Much of our electricity being provided now is domestic or household, as you've said. There is a huge need for industrial electricity in Sierra Leone. Mining industry is losing so much because we cannot refine or smelt some of our properties here. Against when do you think we'll start discussing industrial electricity in Sierra Leone?
We're already discussing it. Some of the long-term plans we have is really in that direction. Yeah, you need reliable, affordable power to industrialize. You're right on the mark. Yeah, as I said, I did Sustainable Development Goal number 9. Sustainable Development Goal number 9 is on industrialization and innovation and infrastructure. I led that, but also 7 on energy access. They're very connected. In Sierra Leone, some of the factories have told me 30% or more of their cost is their generator. It makes them uncompetitive. So somebody will produce the same product far away in Asia and sell it cheaper here because the energy cost is high, transactions costs are high, all the bureaucracy and clearance at the ports, all of that. You add those to the cost of production, it makes their costs high. So all the companies are looking forward to stable, reliable power. Digital communications, same problem. Every tower has to have a generator. That's not core business. Imagine how many towers they have, and they have to supply diesel, spare parts, put a watchman there too.